Rev up your engines! Alright, my son bought a car with a CVT transmission. Should I disown him? Now, if you watched any of my videos, you'll realize I'm not a fan of CVT transmissions, especially in the beginning. They're kind of like little motorboats, slip and slide, cost a fortune to repair when they break, and they broke all the time. But this is a Toyota CVT transmission. This is not those horrible piece of junk Jatco CVTs that Nissan used that would just fall apart as they age and cost a fortune to repair. Aisin CVT transmission. And as such, it's kind of an oddball. You can see the normal transmission, park, drive, but it also has a manual. And when you go up here, there's little paddle shifters. One there. And one there. And I'm sure you're going to ask, wait a second, a CVT transmission is a continuously variable transmission. It doesn't have gears. So how can you shift gears? Well, it actually mimics the shifting of gears. But you don't actually push these. That would be cumbersome. On the back side is where you shift. So when you're shifting, you downshift over here when you're holding with your inside finger. That makes it go down, and the right side makes it go up. So it's ergodynamic. Now this is a 2016 Corolla S, so it mimics 7 gear shifts. It has decent acceleration, and it gets phenomenal gas mileage. Now for a small engine like this, it's a 1.8 liter, puts out about 140 horsepower. It actually gets phenomenal gas mileage. He's presently getting 38.7 miles per gallon driving it around, but at the same time he's happy with the acceleration. He's a pretty fast driver. Now this Corolla S is 5 years old. He doesn't have any problems. The only problem he has is some woman from Pennsylvania decided to make a left turn from the right lane and smashed into the car, and he had to get the rear axle replaced. Toyota, their company Aisin, makes excellent CVT transmissions. This is a 2016, and in 2018 they went even further, and what they did then was they added what's called a launch gear to the CVT transmission. So the CVT transmission in the newer ones has an actual first gear that they take off on. Then after they get to a certain speed, they switch to the CVT transmission, which has all kinds of advantages. Jack it up in the air and take a look. Say, I love this new U-jack the company sent me. It's got a nice U seat, so it fits right on the ridge. It won't come off, and it's not just something that's going to teeter. It's a very brilliant design called the U-Jack. These U-Jack guys did come up with a better design, and I'm happy to show it off. Now, as you can see when you go into the car, the transmission isn't that big to begin with. There's one shaft, there's the other shaft. It's a relatively small device. And this is a 2016. The 2018 up have the launch gear, and they're even smaller. And they get even better gas mileage. The constantly variable transmissions that Toyota makes, I have yet to see any problems with them. And this model, 5 years old, soon it'll be 6 years old, it stands the test of time. Because sure, they're complicated, but if they're well made and they don't have problems, do you really care? No, you want something that lasts, gets good gas mileage, and still drives good. Mind you, I do have to say I've been in the launch gear ones, and they're even faster than these things. They're even more fun to drive. But both of them so far have proven to be totally reliable with the Aisin transmission that Toyota puts in theirs. Like I said earlier, if you got a Nissan with one of those Jatcos, especially the early ones, they're piles of junk. They fell apart. They cost a fortune to fix because they're so complex inside. And not only does Toyota make them well, but they use their heads. They realize people don't like these CVT transmissions that just feel weird. They don't shift. They're always at a certain RPM range. No, these simulate 7 speeds. Like I say, the newer ones simulate 10. So let's take it for a ride. Down she goes. And like I said, I really like this U-Jack design. The U. Well, in this case, it's more like an N, but okay, it's a U now. I really like this design. Well, it's a Toyota Corolla, so I know it's going to start right up. We'll put it in gear. And what do we notice? First of all, it may be a little 1.8. It doesn't shake at all. It goes perfectly fine. And as we watch the tach, you can see it shifts gears. Well, it pretends to shift gears anyways. Toy around with. Now we'll put it in drive and see what it does in drive. We'll floor it. It's also pretty quick in drive if you don't want to do it manually. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. It goes pretty zippy in regular automatic, but if you want to have a little more zip, you can put it in manual mode and use the paddle shifter. So I guess I won't have to disown them after all. Now he's doing like I told. He's got to change the fluid in this thing every 30, 40,000 miles. They tell you it's lifetime. That's a load of baloney. Fluid gets dirty, you have problems. They try to tell you, the dealer, oh, don't do it or they want to charge you a fortune. You've seen my videos. I show how to change them on Toyotas. You just need an Allen wrench. You just drain it out, measure what came out, buy the fluid at the Toyota dealer, pour new fluid in. It's not rocket science. Anybody can do it. Because the little bit of maintenance you have to do on a Toyota Corolla, do it yourself or find an honest mechanic like me to do it for you. So if you're buying a Toyota with a CVT transmission, I say, really, no worries. I would rather get the newer one with a launch gear. They're more fun to drive, but this thing is held up quite well with its fake 7 speeds. I'm always giving you free car information. Well, I'm gonna give you a free tool too. I've been trying it out. I like this U. The notches, fits right on the notches of the car. Jacks up really good. Super wide and stable. Even though it is really heavy, you gotta be strong to pick it up. And to have a chance to win this U jack, place a clean, non-offensive comment on the YouTube comments below. A winner will be chosen randomly by computer to get a fancy new style jack with the U-sized collar on it to lift it up without having to worry about things falling off, because they fit into the U in the grooves and won't slip. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Why do you want a special engine? Turns out that the Cadillac CT5V Black Wings 6.2 liter V8 LT4 GM engine will be hand built by one person. One guy's going to build the whole engine. They won't have quality control. It's the Bowling Green plant in Kentucky, just down the road here. And of course, it's famous for making Corvettes in that area too. Bowling Green. They're going to put a little plaque signed who built the engine. Now these have 658 horsepower, so they're really strong engines. But they do go from $85,000 to $122,000 for one of these fancy Cadillacs, so they're not giving them away. But you have an engine built by one guy, so if it goes wrong, you'll know who to blame. Well, if you live in Ohio, watch out. There's an apartment complex there that's towing away cars that they deem to be ugly. Granted, there's a lot of people abandoning cars in apartment complexes. You know, I see here in Tennessee too. I mean, that is a problem. Valley Apartment Complex is towing away what they think are ugly vehicles. They do give you a notice before they tow it away. And one guy was complaining, he said, I just came to visit my friend. Well, he came to visit a friend in a junker that was all smashed in. Had a spare tire on one, regular tires on the other wheels. I mean, and it's funny because they don't know who lives where, right? So you can't even visit these places if you have ugly cars. The complex says, we do not allow cars that have rust, dents, flat tires, or bad paint to sit in front of our complex. And of course, we got bureaucrats here. One person said, hey, I'm poor, I can barely make it, but I pay my rent. And the manager says, we understand the policy is not for everyone. In other words, she was being snotty and saying, well, if you can't afford a nice car, get out of here and move someplace else. We don't want you hillbillies in here. So again, the poor are being squeezed. With the pandemic, the price of used cars is also skyrocketing. Hey, give these people a break. Hey, it's an apartment complex. It isn't where millionaires have their mansions. So give these people a break. That's what I say. They can't help it if they can't afford much. And they're going to work and doing their jobs. They're paying their rent. We got snob appeal in apartment complexes. I've met managers of places like that back in the day when I used to do mobile repair on places. And they could be very snotty people. So I say poo on them and let's help the poor people of Ohio out and let them drive their cars. They're working, they're doing their job. Don't shame them just because they got a poor looking car. Well, sometimes life imitates art, sometimes art imitates life. Turns out that the Illinois State Police had a Blues Brothers style chase of teens who had stolen a car, and they ended up wrecking 4 police cars, totaled them, chasing after a stolen car. 15-year-old girl, a 15-year-old boy, and a 13-year-old boy going for a joyride in a car that they stole. And the Illinois State Police were chasing after them, and they wrecked 4 of their vehicles in the chase. They went for 45 miles, and the chase ended in Indiana. And the hilarious thing is, it was the girl who was driving it. The 15-year-old girl was the one who was doing the driving. It wasn't the boys, it was the girl. Talk about juvenile delinquents, you know? Do you think they could have done better than wrecking 4 of their own cars, chasing after a Hyundai? I don't know. I think those guys need some better training there in Illinois. Outdriven by a 15-year-old doesn't bode good for their police department there. Somebody should have filmed the whole thing. It'd make a good movie, better than the Blues Brothers. It's real. It actually happened. And the driver was a 15-year-old girl. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.